Okay, welcome to another part. I don't know which part this is. But anyway, this guy and my mom are mad at each other in 2001. Around November 2001. And this relative of mine, this second cousin of mine who worked at the fire department, he calls my aunt, my mom's older sister, and he starts talking to her about me getting busted for, almost getting arrested for cross-dressing at that time in town. He said the police had a video of me. They must have had a video, like a dash cam or something. So they had a video of me in drag, of me in cross-dressed at the police station. I don't know if he had ever seen it. Maybe my other relative, my other cousin, who was a cop on the police force, maybe he had seen it. But they had a video of me cross-dressed. He's telling my aunt that. He's saying nobody around here will have anything to do with him. Tracy, that is, because he's cross-dresser and he's gay. And so yeah, he told my aunt this, and then my aunt the next morning, because this happened at night, the next morning my aunt calls my mom and fills her in on all the juicy details, and my mom was really shocked and upset. And I'm still living at home, by the way, at that time. This was in 2001. My mom's shocked and upset. She thinks it's something that happened recently, and then she was asking me all about it. And I said, no, that happened a few years ago. That was about 5 years ago. And I just did it as a prank, just for shock value, to see what kind of reaction I could get. And she was still upset, but that somewhat satisfied her. Especially me telling her it was over 5 years ago. But she was upset. I asked her not to tell my dad. So my dad didn't find out about it. And I guess my dad won't find out about it now, because he passed away in 2018. And I'm glad he never knew about that, because he might just have disowned me over something like that. I don't think he would have been, he wasn't too open-minded. He wouldn't have accepted that. So yeah, and so that's all the, the negative consequences of that I faced cross-dressing back in the day. My getting caught by those kids wearing shorts and pantyhose on the trail those 2 times, once in 94, 95. Well, that led to one of the boys, when he was older, when he's a teenager, telling his uncle about that, and telling him that he'd seen me in shorts, and we called them leotards, a couple times in the last 6 months. That led to me being accused of possibly breaking into that trailer and stealing that girl's clothes. And then there was some fallout from that incident in town, where I was accused of indecent exposure and almost got arrested in drag. Well, the fallout from that was in 2000. My relative, the arson investigator, was interviewing me, or asking me questions, and I ended up talking about that and telling him I cross-dressed. Now I went cross-dressing in other cities, so I wouldn't get busted in my hometown. I want to go do it what I told me is go do it where people don't know me. Stay out of any problems, like trying to avoid kind of problems I had in '96. And obviously he took that information and spread it all over. So you can see the kind of negative consequences and fallout that you can have from being a cross-dresser. I had negative consequences and fallout from what I did in 94, 95. Getting caught on the trails wearing shorts and pantyhose. Obviously negative consequences from my first ever cross-dressing outing in '96. And like I said, I didn't quit cross-dressing. I just started doing it in other cities. And I think after I almost went to jail in '96, November of '96, I quit cross-dressing for a while, but I think I was doing it again by like April of '97, so it was only a few months that I took off. So I persisted in doing it even with all the trouble it was causing me. But yeah, all those incidents, the ones wearing shorts and pantyhose on the trails down here, the incident in town in '96 where I almost got arrested in drag, no less. They all came back to bite me, a few years later even. I mean, when my mom found out about that in 2001, that was about almost 5 years after that incident that happened in '96. almost 5 years, I was still experiencing negative fallout and consequences. So yeah, if you cross-dress and you get caught, you know, you can expect possibly some negative consequences and fallout from it. You know, damaged relationships. Maybe certain people will end relationships with you over that. And I'm not married, but I can only imagine what kind of problems that would cause between a man and a woman who were married. If the man was found out to be a cross-dresser by his wife, you know, he might have marriage troubles. He might have considerable troubles with his spouse if she finds out something like that. So there is a negative side to cross-dressing for a man if you get caught doing it. If you get caught, there's can be negative consequences in reproduction and negative repercussions and consequences if you get caught. You know, somebody commented on one of my videos on this subject yesterday and said that if you go up around the Northeast and do that, if you travel around the Northeast and doing that, you might get a giggle, but no one's going to turn you out because you're a cross-dresser, and that may be true. That way will be true. I'm only speaking about my personal experience where I live with it. I'm only speaking about my experiences in a small rural community. Now, obviously, living somewhere in a big city, New York, Chicago, Los Angeles, or wherever, obviously people there probably aren't going to pay that much attention to it. You know, and when I started doing my series, running errands in pantyhose, about a little over a year ago now, you know, I expected I would get some